Greetings, Guardians, my name is Bife here. So, with the war engulfing Sol and the conflict between light and darkness really coming to a head, I wanted to give a bit of an update on where things are in the system, because at current there is a clear division between the forces aligned with the Guardians and the forces aligned with the Witness, but in the middle there are some rather odd figures that we need to factor into a bigger picture. Sol has not been completely dragged into a totally binary conflict of good versus evil. There are still a few wildcards in the system, parties that have neither an interest in supporting the Witness nor an interest in supporting the Guardians. These wildcards could have a massive impact on the system in time, so I figured it was important to go ahead and talk about them in today's video. So if you're watching this, then I presume you've already seen my video on Eramis the other day. It's an important bit of content, if only because it lets us definitively say that no, we're not talking about her today. I've already covered her story, but also she's a character that seems to be kind of deciding where they are at this moment, and whilst they are technically on the opposing side, the immediate point for them would be almost definitely to switch sides. And so this makes her less of a wild card where we really have no clue where she'd go. It makes her a bit more predictable. Therefore, I'm not considering her in today's video, just figured I should go ahead and say that first. So, in the meantime, let's jump in and talk about the other wild cards. First of all, I feel as though we need to give an honourable mention to the Nine, a group that hasn't been mentioned in a while but is also highly fractured, mysterious and often unpredictable. It's clear that there are two factions within the Nine, one of them which is hellbent on assisting us so that they can all keep existing, and another which is determined to cut their dependence on us through any means necessary. Means that we won't be going into in this video though, because, well, it's a lot of head-spinning nonsense and it's not easily confirmable. At very least, to explain why this matters and how this makes sense for the Nine, know that the Nine, as is the best of our understanding in the lore, are sentient dark matter, given existence by the shape of life in the universe. We, as living sentient beings, give them existence by defining their boundaries. Within that, they rely on us to exist, and so that's where the big philosophical divide between the two groups within the Nine suddenly emerges. There are those that are trying to become independent of all things that exist, so that they can keep on living without reliance on us, and there are those that see that this is the only way for them to exist and therefore are supporting us in our quest to stop the Witness from eradicating all life in the universe. This is more than what I really wanted to cover for the moment, but the Nine are a wild card, because we've seen next to no substantive lore explaining anything going on with them for a while. There's been the 30th anniversary pack, the Season of the Drifter, prophecy, but none of these things really give us an idea of where the Nine truly stand. Xur keeps showing up every week, but he's not exactly divulging a great number of secrets. I would sit there and simply say that when it truly comes to it, there is a time and place in which we will be able to sit and understand what the Nine truly represent and what their agenda is, but it's not now, and for the moment, we should at least treat them with a little caution. And yeah, it's been a long time since we've covered anything on the Nine on the channel, so do let me know if there's something I've missed there somehow. I don't think there is, but if there is, it's not impossible. So yeah, go ahead and leave it down below in the comments. Anyway, all that is to say that we're going to move on to some figures that I think are much more relevant to the story, and, well, whilst the Nine are a strange and nebulous group, I think there is one which is a lot more easily defined that we should talk about next, and that's the Scorn. And more importantly, one of my favourite little soapboxes to continue reminding people about, the fanatic Fikrul. We've known since our encounters with the Locus of Communion on the Glycan that the Scorn can be controlled by the Witness, and that generally speaking, they are throughout the system now. This is something which the Witness has been able to do because it has an overruling will that can direct them. However, before this moment, they were under the control of another by the name of Fikrul the Fanatic, an Eliksni that had been raised from the dead by the wishes of Uldren Sov and the wish magic of Riven, the last Ahamkara, who at the time being had been taken. It's presumed that her then status as a wish dragon that was taken and the combination of that with her wish magic is the reason why Fikrul was the first of the Scorn and was not simply resurrected as a normal Eliksni. However, no matter what happens, the fanatic keeps coming back to life. This is the other strange side effect of the wish magic that Riven imparted. Fikrul has, of course, also been able to control his Scorn brothers and sisters, and in the time of Forsaken, he was seen as the leader of the entire faction once Uldren Sov had been killed. But now, it seems as though the Scorn are all under the influence of the Witness, and there is something we need to consider about that, especially considering that the Witness has seemingly left through the portal. Is it still in control of the Scorn? If it is, then we have something that ultimately is probably greater than Fikrul and therefore will always be able to overrule him. But if not, then we have an asymmetrical warfare factor to consider, which is namely that the fanatic was raised with the power of wish magic that made Riven independent and free after the death of Oryx, and thus has some kind of resistance to the control that can be exerted over it by those that take, or the Witness. So it's not impossible that Fikrul could then use his power to try and pull the Scorn back into his fold. If this is the case, then we would be removing a powerful tool in the Witness's army and relieving the Scorn of their bonds of servitude to a power even greater. Now, all of this is highly theoretical, and it ultimately resolves in the idea that we don't know how powerful wish magic is, and we don't know how much of it is imparted within Fikrul. We also don't completely understand the degree to which Fikrul is able to control the Scorn after the intervention of the Witness. Regardless, the fanatic, we do know, is his own person, and definitely has an opinion that the Scorn are a people that are worth saving and fighting for. You can see this clearly if you played back in the old Hollowed Lair strike, where you could hear him recite the names of his fallen brothers and sisters who were once Scorn barons that we killed in the era of the Forsaken campaign. And all of this, of course, leads us to a very simple conclusion, which is this: Fikrul is no fan of the Witness. Fikrul probably wishes to see the Scorn as his children in a certain sense. He is the paternal figure that would guide them as a certain arbiter of their people, and therefore I think that he would value their ability to make their own choices, which means, of course, he would not wish for them to be under the thrall of the Witness. If this is all true, then he may choose momentarily to ally himself with us so that he might liberate the Scorn. But of course, this is another huge if. Fikrul may be a powerful figure, but there's no chance that he can do this, and even if he does choose to do so, there's no reason for him to still ally with us unless we have a means of freeing the Scorn. And even if he does see that we have the means, he might reject the proposal anyway. This is one of those moments at which I think that any move involving the fanatic going forward has to involve Crow. The relationship between Fikrul and Uldren Sov, Crow's former self, will definitely be a key part in this story, even more so now that Crow remembers those memories of his old life, thanks to Savathun. And of course, you need to understand where Fikrul stands in all of this. Currently, it is likely that he feels a great degree of mistrust and loss. Remember that he used to call Uldren Sov father. Crow now stands as a guardian, a representation of everything that Fikrul hates. This will be one of the deepest betrayals that one could possibly imagine from Fikrul's perspective. But if there is anyone who can convince Fikrul to stand down, it might just be Crow. I don't believe that we're in any position to call Fikrul an ally. I don't even think that he'll join our side. But I do think that there's a possibility here of Fikrul taking the Scorn out of the greater equation, weakening the Witness's armies, and if this is an opportunity that we can take, we should take it. It is a wild idea, but this is why Fikrul is a wild card. He represents a potential liberation for the Scorn that hasn't existed, and potentially there is more to be seen with his narrative as it pertains to darkness, light, and of course to Crow. Finally, there is the wild card that I'm sure everyone has been thinking about, the wild card that redefined the system for a long time and has most certainly left her marks. I am of course talking about the Witch Queen, Savathun. Now let me be really clear, yes, she dies at the end of Witch Queen. Spoilers if you haven't played it, sorry, but it's been a year. However, her death is clearly not her end. As a guardian, or at very least a light bearer with a surviving ghost, we know that there is potential for her to be resurrected, even as the Vanguard has contained her body within the city's vaults. This is something which has led to a very strange status quo, where her ghost Imaru, still being alive and well, presents the possibility of a play for the future. If she is capable of doing something important, which allows us to strike back at the Witness, we do have the opportunity to deposit her body once again in the throne world and allow Imaru to resurrect her. But what role would she play in the future? Well, at very best, we know this. She opposes the Witness, and she may at least become a temporary ally of convenience, much as her style, given the ability that she is able to wield over others and how easily she finds it to manipulate them. But there is more to it than that. As a fellow wielder of the light, and as one who was betrayed by the Witness long ago, she has more reason than most to stop the Witness and to see whatever schemes it has with the Traveler fail. But of course, this is also neglecting the simple idea that she is a god of deception. Savathun is therefore the ultimate wildcard, and we have no idea what her intent truly is. But even gods apparently can be rattled. At the end of the Witch Queen campaign, when we faced her in the final battle, we showed her the truth that her people had been led down this dark path so long ago on Fundament by the Witness's own lies. It's clear in this moment that this shook Savathun to her core, and it's not clear what effect this would have if ever she is resurrected and is able to properly process everything that happened. From this moment on, it's clear that if she was resurrected, she has an agenda. However, it's questionable whether that agenda would align with ours. The thing that isn't is that it would most certainly be fiercely opposed to the Witness. Does that make her our ally? I don't think so. But it does mean that there are opportunities to achieve common goals, such as battling against Xivu Arath with the purpose of weakening the Witness. It's possible that Savathun would look to free her sister from the service to the Witness that allows her to potentially pull the Hive forces away from the Witness's thrall as well. Only Savathun truly knows her sister, given that their brother is dead. And now, even as a heretic to the old ways of the Hive, Savathun is armed with a truth that could unravel one of the oldest servant races to the Witness. If this does happen, Xivu Arath and the rest of the Hive may look for another way to conduct war. They may look to the stars where the Witness has traveled. If they do seek vengeance, then ultimately that will lead us to a place where the Witness has lost a powerful ally and has made a foe of an entire army. But this is of course a best case scenario, and it's worth remembering that Savathun is a being who is predominantly concerned with her own survival as well. And the reality is that she has done many more things than we could even possibly fathom, simply to ensure that one way or another she continues to allow her schemes to unfold and in some way to live on. The most terrifying of which, and one which I would think categorizes her as the ultimate wildcard, is that in canon, she has tried to escape the reality in which she exists and to enter into our own. And when I say our own, I mean you, the person watching the video. She's in canon done this by breaking the fourth wall and ascending to become an entity based upon knowledge shared in a viral fashion. If you're listening to this right now, if you hear the name Savathun, then she continues to exist in our world by virtue of her continued viral existence. In a sense, she has already succeeded. She has worked to escape the game, and in a certain sense, she has. Not merely the flower game or the game of swords and bombs, not merely this, but the actual game of destiny itself. She has ascended into our higher reality in this way, and this, of course, would be her total victory, something which allows her to be completely free of those that would determine her fate for her. Of course, it's worth remembering that this is fictional, fanciful, and not literal. But then again, with the god of deception, it's so easy to be overruling and to find that later one is completely wrong. Predicting what the Witch Queen might do, especially after our final encounter with her, is a tall order indeed. But I do feel like at some point in the future, regardless of whether it's during our battle with the Witness or not, she will have a part to play. Her ghost Imaru lives, and that is enough reason for us to not count her out. Sol is in a strange time of turmoil. Understanding these wildcards and the potential to turn them into military assets or at very least momentary allies or even enemies of the Witness may be key to ensuring a future for all that inhabit Sol and the known universe. And who knows, maybe one of them might be able to lead us to the knowledge we need to follow the Witness to wherever it has gone. And then, maybe we can hope to put a stop to its madness. But that's all from me for now. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, go ahead and leave a like. And of course, remember to leave your thoughts and comments down below in the comments section. Is there another wildcard out there in the system that hasn't been considered? Perhaps the Aphelion, perhaps some other force? The strange colony of pacifist guardians out beyond the Kuiper Belt that Aphrodite supposedly joined? Tell me, who do you think is out there that might have a role to play in the future? Sieur Ido, or perhaps some other strange figure? Do you reckon that we'll see the disciples of yore yet again? There are so many different groups that could represent wildcards in the story. What do you think they'll be? Do you reckon any of them will come up? That's what I'm interested to know. Avenues of the future, that's what will open up to us as we understand. And of course, if you want more Destiny lore content, go ahead and hit subscribe and the bell next to subscribe to turn on those email notifications. But as per usual, know that your viewership as always has been quite enough for me. And that in the meantime, my name is Byf. Rhodacia ad Astra. I'll see you Starside.